Today I wanted to talk about the method that has changed my art forever. As a second year fine art student, this method has had a huge impact on me. I'm talking about the bargue method. Or well, it's not really a method. It's more of a way of thinking when you draw. So let's call it the bargue mentality. If you're not familiar with bargues, they were in a drawing course created by Charles Bargue between the years of 1868 and 1871. It has been used by art students around the world and has also been used by widely known artists such as Van Gogh and Picasso. After watching this video, you'll know why bargues are used and in what context, how to see and simplify drawing using bargues, whether you could use the bargue book and learn how to draw by yourself or not, and of course I'll talk about tools, techniques, and the best advice that I've gotten from my teachers. So let's talk a little bit about why bargues are used and in what context. They are often used in a fine art environment. Their purpose is to teach students how to see better and draw very accurately. And when I say accurately, I seriously mean that your drawing has to be almost identical to the bargue that you're drawing. The benefits of drawing bargues are many. And the first one is, of course, that you learn to see better and simplify your drawings in a clearer manner. What I mean with seeing better is the simple fact that since they require a lot of accuracy, you learn to pay attention to every single detail. For example, one tip we got while drawing bargues was to look back and forth really quickly and really compare. This is the best advice that I've gotten because as soon as you look back and forth really quickly, you know immediately what needs to be fixed. And it is this vision that I'm referring to as seeing better, because ultimately you see your mistakes. Another great tip we got was to turn your drawing upside down, because then you no longer draw what you think you see, because the shapes will be way more clear that way. You won't think, oh, I'm drawing a baby head like I did here. You'll think rather, oh, I'm drawing this shape. When it comes to learning about bargues and learning how to draw them, it is so much easier to have a teacher nearby. Why it would be hard for a beginner to just draw bargues with no critiques and no help is because you are less likely to push yourself to reach the point of true accuracy. To have a proper bargue that is considered valid, it has to be pretty much identical to the original. I have one right here. It was very well done, but it was not valid in that way where it looks identical. And reaching that state is very difficult because you're more likely to settle for what you have rather than making it look almost perfect, especially as a beginner, because you won't really know what's wrong with your drawing. Sometimes it's good to have someone looking at your drawing from another perspective. Whenever you stare at an artwork for too long, it can almost feel as though you get used to the way it looks, and then it's way harder to see your mistakes. The real trick to seeing when drawing bargues is what I mentioned before, looking back and forth really quickly. That's because that's when you're going to see how your drawing shifts a little every time you look. I'll say that that's the main thing about the bargue mindset, actually being able to see that difference, then developing the skill to fix those differences until your drawing looks as accurate as possible. I have tried over the summer to draw bargues and have that mindset every time I draw. And I must say, when you study bargues alone, it is not easy. It is not for the weak. Despite me having all the knowledge and basically being an academically trained artist, I still struggled. I struggled with my patience and I even struggled with drawing the bargues. Sometimes I wouldn't even want to finish them. It was an experiment, but it did not last long, to be honest. I did it for 2 or 3 weeks and then I left for Ivory Coast. I did not draw bargues there. I barely drew at all. But what I'm trying to say is that I was not successful in drawing bargues by myself or learning from them by myself. I got really bored, really impatient, which is why it's good to have a teacher, not just for motivation, but to also push you to that finish line. It's nice having somebody that could guide you. I'm sure it's possible to learn on your own. I'll definitely give it another try some other time. If you really want to do it though, I think you should be ready to stay disciplined. And I would advise to watch videos where they draw bargues correctly, or somewhere where they could help you with critiques. Even I could critique people. Like if somebody asked me like, oh, could you critique my bargue? Like, of course. I don't know if there are groups where people are learning bargues by themselves, but I do believe that such a group could be very helpful. Simply because at school, I had my classmates. We had each other, so we could always complain to each other and be like, oh my God, this is so hard. And after a while, we would critique each other's work and really push each other to get to that finish line. Because it's way harder than it looks. You will see the book and be like, Charles Bargue, le cours de dessin, da da da. But no, it's not that simple. So here are a few tools that we use to draw bargues. These were Faber-Castell pencils. We sharpened them in a very old-fashioned way with a knife. Basically how the old masters would have done that. So my art school is very precise about having that same vibe of the old masters and the old way. You can of course use whatever you want to draw bargues, but these were the pencils that we used. One tool that I literally had never heard of when we first started was the plumb line. I never knew that those existed and what they were used for. So what a plumb line is basically a tool to measure. You can use it to part a drawing in half to know what to draw. But let's just see the Google definition, shall we? A plumb line is just a piece of thread with a weight attached to its end. By holding such a line and aligning it visually with a model, an artist can measure vertical lines and the alignment of the elements. Exactly. So whenever I'm at school, in the model room, I measure things with my plumb line. My plumb line helps me know where certain body parts are supposed to be and what I'm supposed to draw next. So let's talk about the techniques we used while drawing bargues. These are the blocking, flat value, and after having those down and accurate, you can get to the rendering process. Drawing this way is a great way to be organized and get your desired results. Because when you block something in properly, your drawing is easier to finish and you get less issues later on. So you want a proper block-in. And a block-in is essentially a sketch, but this sketch is more informational. It tells you where things are supposed to be without you having to figure that out later on. So when you block your drawing in, make sure that it is accurate to whatever you're drawing so that you don't have to encounter issues later on. Next, we have the flat value. The flat value is also very informational because it helps you see the shapes better. The shadow shapes. For example, this shape of the shadow. You basically develop or draw that shadow shape and enhance it with a flat value, which in turn helps you know whether it looks correct or not. Bargues are for simplifying the drawing process, which is why the block-in, flat value, and the rendering process are in that order. Another thing that simplify drawing using bargues are the points. So when you look at this drawing, like this bargue drawing, there are different points on it. These points help you see angles that are in the drawing that you normally wouldn't see. Let's take this figure bargue for example. They have lots of points made for you to follow and be able to redraw the figure. All of those are connected and can be used to basically follow directions of where you should draw the shoulder, for example. This drawing course is great in my opinion. Just difficult to understand without a teacher, and especially without a trained eye. These are the main things that I could come up with today, and I've gotten questions before about bargues and what they are and how you use them and everything. So I tried to gather all that info or all those questions into this video. If y'all have more questions or thoughts, feel free to comment or DM me on Instagram. Also, if there are like a lot of questions or if this video was unclear in some type of way, I am willing to make a part 2. So thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah.